Hi, welcome to my channel. If you are new here, then welcome. If you're returning, awesome. I'm glad to have you back. For today's video, I am going to be discussing how to apply for your NPI and your DEA license. If you're anything like me, then you had this overwhelming excitement after you graduated school and passed your boards, and then it was quickly replaced with this looming question of what now? How do I go about getting my NPI, getting my DEA, getting a job, practicing as an NP? I mean, I'm still truthfully working through these steps myself, but I have crossed some of these barriers, and I thought I would share a little bit of what I learned with you to hopefully alleviate some of your stress. I found applying for the NPI and the DEA a little stressful. Not so much the NPI, that one's pretty straightforward. The DEA license was a whole other... I could go on an entire tangent about how it was very frustrating and why I think that it has a lot to do with the fact that the NPs or nurse practitioner scope of practice not being standardized nationally. And so there was a lot of like loopholes I felt, or just trying to interpret what it was that they wanted from me, because it's not the same everywhere. State by state it varies. So anyway, I'm not going to keep rambling. I'm going to go through though with you how to apply for your NPI and how to apply for your DEA license. So I have my laptop here to make sure that I don't miss anything. I want to be really thorough with you guys, so bear with me if you see that I'm looking down. I'll also include some pictures to make it more clear for your understanding. But yeah, so let's just dive right in. So your NPI, this is your National Provider Identification Number. You need to apply for this. So first you're going to go to the National Plan and Provider Enumeration System, or NPPES, and the website is, and I'll include it here for you, but you need to go there and you need to create yourself an account. Just like you do with anything else, you make yourself a username and a password. Make sure you pick something that you don't forget. Once you have created yourself an account, it will take you to a page where it gives you options of applying for an NPI for yourself, for a business, for another individual, what have you. Of course, you are going to be applying for an NPI for yourself. After that, it's going to take you through a series of 8 steps. So step 1, this includes all of your personal information, like your name, your birth date, social security, and your credentials. And all of that is really self-explanatory. I'm sure you'll be able to figure that out. During the second step, it will ask for both your mailing address and your practice location. Now, if at this time when you are applying for your NPI, if you don't have a practice location, if you're not employed currently, then you can actually go ahead and input your home address for your practice location as well as your mailing address. But just remember that this information that you provide will become public. And so when you do have employment, you'll want to go back in and edit this and change it to the address of your of the practice that you'll be working at. The third and fourth step are optional. The third step, this is in regards to sharing health info or health information between other health entities. I did not apply, this was not applicable to me, so I skipped it. And then the fourth was also optional. It's going over other identities, not applicable to me as well. So third and fourth step, I skipped. So step 5, this is taxonomy, and this is where you're going to be choosing from the taxonomy drop down, and you'll choose in your situation, I'm assuming nurse practitioner like me. And then after that, you will have a box where you will input your specialization. So for me, for example, I put family nurse practitioner because that is my specialty. But of course, if you are something else, then you'll put in whatever your specialty is. After you go ahead and include your specialty, then you will include your license number and the state it was issued. So this will be the license number that you were given with your license. So if it's taking a while for it to be processed and you to actually get the hard copy in the mail, then you look it up on your website. Whatever you were affiliated with. For me, for example, I took the exam, the AANP exam, so I was able to go on to that website and log in with my information, and I was able to actually download a downloadable version of my license there, like 2 weeks probably before I actually received it in the mail. So much quicker, so I could go ahead and use that information to apply for my NPI. So I suggest not waiting for it to come in the mail. All right, so then step 6 includes your contact information. Step 7 is just an error check to make sure that everything that you input was correctly placed. And then step 8 is when you are going to be able to submit your form. There was no fee for me. It took approximately 30 minutes before I received my NPI in my email that I provided. So make sure that you're providing an email that you have access to on a regular basis. Otherwise, super straightforward. Okay, so applying for your DEA license, this I found a bit more tricky and obviously more expensive because applying for the NPI was free. This had a fee of $888. And before you go out and apply for your DEA license, you might be in a situation where you can wait until you have employment and you can work this into your contract and perhaps have your new place of employment pay for your DEA license. For me, in my situation, starting at urgent care, they required that I come with my own DEA license, so I had to provide that on my own. Yeah, so if you actually just go ahead and Google apply for my DEA license, it will pop up what you need to, the website that you need to use, but I'll go ahead and write it for you here as well. It's the DEA diversion.usdoj.gov, and like I said, I'll put it up there for you, and it will take you to this first screen where you're going to choose a new application and apply online. You'll click apply online for a new applicant. You're not renewing, you are a new applicant. Okay, and then this will actually go ahead and direct you to another page where you want to scroll down, and under the heading Form 224, you want to choose mid-level practitioner. And once you click on this option, it will then prompt you underneath that to select one business activity. And here you're going to choose the MLP-nurse practitioner, and then in parentheses it tells you the fee of $888 and that it's good for 3 years. So once you make the correct choice, you'll go ahead and you'll click continue. And then the next page is going to include your mid-level practitioner pre-application checklist. And this page, you'll see when you get there, it has a lot of very scary verbiage, a lot of non-refundable and big red bold words. And this is what really put me off. It made me very nervous that I was going to do something incorrectly and that I'd be shelling out nearly $1,000 for something and not getting any money back and not getting my DEA license. So I wanted to make sure I did it right. And in doing so, I called up the DEA a bunch of times. I wanted to make sure that I wanted to make sure that I did it correctly. And so yes. So when you get there, you'll see what I'm talking about. There's a few things on this checklist that I really want to bring to your attention were the things that tripped me up, and so I want to bring some clarity for you. So first, if you go to number 6, and it reads, you must currently have a full state license in the state where you will register. If your state mandates additional requirements such as a collaborative agreement or prescriptive authority to handle controlled substances, you must meet those requirements before you apply for your DEA registration. So this part right here obviously goes state by state. Whether or not your state requires you to have a prescriptive authority form or a collaboration form with the provider, you need to know, and you can actually call up your DEA and figure this out. I don't know how you can find it out online. They don't make it very clear to find out state by state what you need. I can speak on the behalf of myself living in Michigan and residing in Michigan. Our state does require prescriptive authority. We don't have full practice. The way I interpreted that was that I had to allocate that before I applied because that's what it said. But after speaking with 10 plus people at the DEA and speaking with Laura, our licensing and regulatory affairs here in Michigan, they finally confirmed with me, well, first of all, none of them could provide me with this form. I still don't know exactly if this is a form or if this is something I'm supposed to write up my own like collaborative agreement, but not Laura or the DEA actually were able to provide me with a prescriptive authority form for me and my provider that I'm working with. But after speaking with a bunch of them, they did clarify that I don't need it in order to apply for my DEA license, but that I may need it if they decide to follow up with me later on and ask for a collaborative agreement. And they assured me that if that were the case, that if they were to contact me in the future requesting some kind of prescriptive authority, and if I could not come up with this type of form or collaborative agreement for them, that they would work with me and that they're not as mean and scary as it may seem on the website, and they're not going to just come and take my DEA license. They're going to work with me. Still really bizarre how it's all kind of worded and handled. I never provided a prescriptive authority form because I was following directions from the DEA. and I was still able to apply for my DEA license, even though Michigan does require a prescriptive authority collaborative agreement. So you can see why this got confusing, but when applying, you don't need to show it before applying. Okay, so one thing I will add on to this is that somebody at the DEA, like the big federal DEA, directed me to my state DEA's office. And that was based out of Detroit. That's my local DEA. And so I called. I have not heard back from anyone, and that office did leave a voicemail. I'll follow up if I hear anything back regarding this collaborative agreement and prescriptive authority. If for some reason someone's watching this and knows anything about that, go ahead and leave it in the comments because I'd really like to hear what you have to say. So anyway, the point is I did not need it to apply, and I was able to successfully apply for my DEA without it. Next, I want to draw your attention to number 9 on the checklist, and it reads that you must currently possess all required state authority to handle controlled substances for the state of your registered business or office address. Some states require a separate controlled substances license in addition to a mid-level practitioner license. Additionally, some states require a supervisory agreement with specific authority for controlled substances. If you do not currently possess these credentials, do not apply until all state requirements are fulfilled. So what I did is I called up Laura, our state and licensing regulatory office, and they informed me that I do in fact need to apply for a separate state license in order to prescribe medications before being able to successfully apply for my DEA license. So I went ahead, I followed Laura's instructions. I applied for this. I modified my license. It was a $105 fee to be licensed to prescribe here in the state of Michigan. Save yourself some money if you're in Michigan, because they were incorrect when they told me that. I, in fact, did not need that before applying for my DEA license, and that was confirmed after speaking to someone else in the DEA. I really wish that everybody could get on the same page and be really clear in their instructions, because this was very frustrating, and I paid over $100 for something that I didn't even need. So in the state of Michigan, you do not need this separate state license before applying for your DEA. So if you're looking at this for the state of Michigan, you don't need it. Okay, so those are the points that I really wanted to draw your attention to, because those are what kind of tripped me up when I was applying for my DEA license. Moving on, after reading through all this, you'll scroll down and you'll check the box saying that you have read and agreed to all of their terms, and you will then click continue. On this page, you will have to input your personal information and the business information. This is another area that I was given the wrong information, and so I want to relay to you the correct information. I was told by somebody in the DEA when I was completing this form, because at this point I was so frustrated with the process that I basically had somebody on the phone with me on speaker while I was doing this form, making sure that it was done correctly before I submitted. I was like, no, stay on the phone with me. I want to hear that I'm doing everything correctly. So that still wasn't enough. I was on the phone with the DEA associate of some sort, and she's told me that for the business address and for the home address, I could go ahead and include my home address for both, and that in the future it would make things easier if I decided to change jobs, that I wouldn't have to be like held to this location as my practice location. So I went ahead and I included only my home address for the business address and for the mailing address. This is incorrect. And I know this because after I submitted everything, it went through, they took my money, but I got an email the following day from the DEA saying that they were not able to process my DEA license because of this error. I called up there frantically thinking that I was about to lose $1,000 for nothing after spending almost the entire day with somebody from the DEA or Laura talking to them about this, and still it was incorrect. Luckily, they worked with me really well, and I was able to remedy the situation right away. There was no extra fees. I didn't lose my non-refundable $888. So the verbiage on this website, I feel like, is a bit more scary than they actually are. They worked with me really well. I mean, I would hope so. after everything, but whatever. So when you are including this information, the business and home address or business and mailing address, make sure that you do actually have a practice location and that you do use your mailing address as your home address. Also important to note here is that you provide an email that you will always have access to, because this is their main point of communication with you. So make sure that you include a personal email that you have access to at all times, not affiliated with your employment, because if something changes in the future, you want to be able to have that open line of communication there. Okay, so after you include your home address, your mailing address, whatever, your practice location, you'll proceed to the next page. This page is going to ask for your social security number. You'll go ahead and input that information, hit proceed. That's an easy step. The following page is where it'll talk about the drug schedules, and it will ask for your NPI and information like this. So it gives you a bunch of boxes. Depending on the state that you're working in as a nurse practitioner, will guide how this page kind of looks and what medications, scheduled, narcotics or non-narcotics, you are able to prescribe as a advanced practice provider. So I went ahead and this showed me that I can do Schedule 2, Schedule 3, and Schedule 4, and those are narcotics. Schedule 2, Schedule 3, Schedule 5, non-narcotics. I went ahead and checked all of those off, and then I provided my NPI number and then my date of birth, and then it asks some information about the school that you attended. You'll need to provide the name of the school and the year that you graduated. So you'll go ahead and finish that form. That one's very straightforward, and you'll go ahead and you'll hit proceed again. After this, it's going to ask for your credit card information, where you go ahead and you input all of that so you can pay that $888 fee, and it will remind you again that this is non-refundable anyway. So you'll go ahead and you'll do that, and then at the end, after you submit your payment, you will get a confirmation page. Big tip here, go ahead and screenshot that or print it, because there is no confirmation email, and I confirmed this with the DEA. So it's not that I did it incorrectly and that's why I didn't get a confirmation email. They do not send you a confirmation email. So when you get that page that says like you've submitted your form, it's processed, it will have some information, some tracking information on there. Make sure you screenshot that and save it for your records, because it will not be coming to you in your email. So that's it. Hopefully this, somewhat tutorial was helpful for you. I think one of the biggest takeaways of this is that don't be afraid to reach out and ask questions if it's unclear. They have contact information on there, both the DEA, the LARA, AANP, or ANCC, whatever it is, whoever you need to contact. If you have questions, contact them. I don't care how many times. Something that my parents always told me, and this is kind of funny, but I believe it to be true, is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Those that speak up get stuff taken care of or get things done. And so yeah, I called up there many times. The people at the DEA got to know me quite well. And also, if you have any more questions for me, if you think that I can clear this up anymore, go ahead and leave any of those comments or questions down below. I really, the goal of this video is really to try and help alleviate some of the stress for you, because I had a lot of it. Hopefully I can, pay it forward somehow and help somebody else not go through what I just went through, because it was just really frustrating. And I know, you might be like loaded, but $888, that's a good chunk of money. I really didn't want to give out that type of cash if I was not going to see it in return and I wasn't going to have my license. So I wanted to make sure I did it correctly. Hopefully I helped you. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel if it's been helpful for you. Share this with anyone that you think might benefit. And until next time, I will talk to you very soon. I wish you guys the best. Bye.